Hello, 1 2 1 2. Sorry?
Are you zooming this?
Not zooming, but we are trying to stream this on Facebook and YouTube. So it will be recorded. Yeah.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, because it. Yeah, but it. Yes. We know. Yeah. Okay, good evening, everyone. Please sit down. And behave, please. Welcome to another adult education session. Well, we are recording this in order, some people cannot make it, so it will be on Facebook and YouTube for a while, for 30 days. And here is a microphone, another microphone that will capture your voices, because it's not going to be today a lecture that I will speak and you will listen. It's going to be very interactive, and also we're going to play a little bit, okay? Play, to have fun. Yeah, spiel a little bit. Yeah, we are, close to Adar. So Adar is the month of Purim, so we are approaching the Purim spiel. So another thing is that the door is closed, so if somebody comes in between while we are doing this class, so one of you please approach there and open the door. We don't want to keep the door opened, okay? So, yes, so look at these people. Yeah, so the first thing when we need to distinguish between different streams or different movements in Judaism, let's say in religious Judaism, okay? Let's do this more specific, but still, the first thing that come into our minds is the eyes, how we look. I mean, how we are dressed, how people are, For instance, if we see this one, so probably it's a Hasidic rabbi with a shtreimel, right? Or if we see this one, so I can see her shoulders, so she is not Orthodox, right? And if I can see this picture, well, this talit has different colors, right? It's not the regular talit with just white and if you see this man, it's absolutely 100% Sephardic or Mizrahi, right? Also this one. So we have a amazing diversity in Judaism, and we are going to talk about this let's start from the most obvious things, and then we'll come into the deep part of the discussion. So, first thing, yes, it's better here.
Yeah,
so
better.
You can see here two photos, right? The first one, what is there? This one. Payas and hat, yes, and black, and okay. So, what is your conclusion? They seem Hasidic or Orthodox, ultra-Orthodox, yes. Okay. And when you see the other one?
She's in the bondage.
She's in the bondage, yes.
It's a joke.
What do you say?
Conservative, maybe?
Why? Very good. Why?
The box sign.
First, the box is tefillin. Yes.
First, she's female.
First of all, she's a female wearing tefillin, yes. So, if we think Reform women, well, actually Reform men don't don't regularly use tefillin, so she is not reformed. So very good conclusion, Steph. But you know, this is an Orthodox woman. It's a new movement. We probably will talk about. They are praying just women together, not with men. They are like modern Orthodox, and they want to be accepted by the Orthodox establishment. And let me say something about this. When Judy and I lived in Costa Rica, we lived for 4 years there. Many times we saw in the middle of San Jose, the capital of the country, this kind of people. And we asked them, so they are, we knew that there was a Chabad rabbi in a very specific neighborhood, but not in the center of the city. So when we saw this kind of people in the center of the city, we asked ourselves, who are they? What kind of Hasidic are they? So very interesting. Then they're not even Jews. They are non-Jews that they decided to live a life like Orthodox Jews, ultra-Orthodox Jews. And the way we dress is the first thing we see, and we can make some conclusions. So, for instance, if I go like this with jeans, and sometimes I don't wear kippah the whole day, but even if I don't have the kippah, so people will say, "What kind of rabbi is this one?" First of all, is this a rabbi? Many times I was asked, especially when I used to have curls, long hair. So, what? Are you a rabbi? What kind of rabbi? So the idea is that there are stereotypes about everything. Okay, so this is how should I dress? The first question, according to some streams. First, I would say that there's one value here. The value, it's called tzniut. It's I should translate this as modesty. So women especially should cover some parts of the body, to be not to be extremely attractive. But also, I think there's something that it's related to identity, to identification. For instance, if you go and walk in an ultra-Orthodox neighborhood in Jerusalem, Mea Shearim, you would say different groups of Hasidim. One, they have white socks, others black socks, others different colors. Some people put their socks outside the pants, some put the pants outside. So this is identification. There are different groups, different sects. And yes?
Because they're following a particular rabbi?
Yes, they follow a particular rabbi, but also they belong to a different group. They came from a different shtetl in Europe, and they usually follow a specific rabbi. Second question. The first question I didn't ask you, but I see you, okay? Jeans, okay. Well, Marcy, you with the skirt. If you put the your hat, so I can ask you, are you conservative or are you, He is laughing, but this is a good this can be a good question. But almost all of us are identified by our dress. How do you think a Shabbat morning service should last?
45 minutes.
Okay, this is the ideal for you. An hour and a half, yeah?
2 hours.
I think 2 hours.
2 hours. Okay, so And how you know if it's Orthodox or not? By the length of the service. How do you know that? So a Reform service should almost always don't last more than 1 hour and a half. Okay, almost. Conservative can be more, of course, but it depends. Within the conservative movement, as we will see, there are different branches, and there is a lot of pluralism inside the movement. And Orthodox, sometimes 2.5, bless you. Sometimes 3, sometimes 4, sometimes the whole day, right? Yom Kippur, for instance, okay? But, yes, Vic?
Well, in an Orthodox service, at least the ones I've gone to, they go very fast. I mean,
yes, correct. I would, yes. I wanted to say.
They don't sing slowly.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it depends. It depends because there are many Orthodox, modern Orthodox, especially in Israel, they start Shabbat at 8, 9:30, they are done. With Torah, with Haftarah, with everything. But they are, Amen, Amen, Amen. So they are fast, they are like running a marathon. Very good. So again, how many days a week should I pray? First, how many times a day should I pray? 3 times if you are Orthodox. Are you, Arlene, praying 3 times a day?
Not religiously.
Not really? Okay, so very Orthodox people daven, pray 3 times a day. Shacharit, Mincha, and Mariv, right? Conservative? Well, they should pray 3 times a day. The reality is they don't. But, in many synagogues, they have a daily minyan, at least once a day, morning or afternoon, evening, Mincha Mariv together. Or in some synagogues, they have Monday and Thursday, because these are the days that we take the Torah from the Ark and read the Torah, right? Okay, we have how many services a week? Sometimes 1, sometimes 2, right? Shabbat is probably the most, attended service, right? If I say, well, let's have a Rosh Chodesh service, it's probably in the middle of the week, and we're not going to have a minyan, yeah? Or let's say when. No. Rosh Chodesh is for everyone. We have an activity, Rosh Chodesh, led by Rabbi Joyce Reinitz for women, but Rosh Chodesh is a half holiday for every Jew, not just for women. Also, for instance, there was one time during the pandemic that we had a shacharit, a morning service of Pesach, Passover. Just the first day of Passover, after the first Seder, we were 2. 2 people. I mean, how? So this is one thing that it may be silly. You can laugh, but this is things that you can, you say, we're not all the day praying, davening. We don't do that. How many days a week? I said. How many times? I said. How many blessings a day should I say?
The ideal is 613.
100. 100 blessings, according to the rabbis. Every Jew should say 100 blessings a day. But are we doing 100 blessings? Not really, right? Okay, so let's go to another question. What should be the difference? What difference should be between men, women, and non-binary people? So here we are in the Kotel, right? These are all men. These are all women. because the Kotel, the rabbi of the Kotel, is a very Orthodox rabbi, and it's impossible to do. If you continue the Kotel, there's a place where it's called a Kotel HaMasorti, the traditional Kotel, and there's a place that we can go and pray together, men and women. But in the last years,
Isn't that Robinson's Arch?
sorry?
Is it called Robinson's Arch?
Yes, this is where the excavations take place. Yes. So, but during the last years, there were demonstrations, very violent demonstration, aggressive demonstration of Chavrei Yeshiva, that these young men who are studying in the academies, in the yeshivot, in the old city of Jerusalem, coming and shouting, and there were also violence, and sometimes the police don't participate and don't intervene, and it's terrible. So you can see, if you enter to the synagogue, and the synagogue is divided with a mechitza, with a division, so men and women, so it's probably Orthodox or ultra-Orthodox. Yes?
Were the men attacking the women?
No, were the Orthodox people attacking men and women in the non-Orthodox part. And there was also a project in the former government to build, like a kind of kotel for everyone. I mean, most of the people in Israel are not ultra-Orthodox, so why we cannot come and we pray together? We're not making any division or distinction. In many synagogues, there is a mechitza. Mechitza, it's like a partition, like a frontier, and also Ezrat Nashim. In some synagogues, we have the women upstairs, and in some cases, like hidden with a kind of of wall or something or curtain. Terrible. Okay, so and of course non-binary people that are, so where should we put these people in the synagogue if we have just two parts? So they are immediately rejected. Okay, so let's continue. Who wrote the Torah? Well, this is different. This is not so. Who wrote the Torah? What do you think?
Humans.
What?
Humans.
Humans? Okay. Who thinks different?
During the time of King
The act of the
Yoshiyahu. It was discovered during the time of King Yoshiyahu, Josiah. What do you say? Yeah.
I think maybe it was a mix of God and man.
Okay. Yes. Some people say there's some inspiration. So man wrote and with a divine inspiration. What about Moses? Moshe Rabbeinu. Did he write the whole Torah?
Of course
well,
not.
traditionally he said, yes. I mean,
he had it all.
But what do you think? What do you think? What do you believe?
of course not. Yeah, terrible handwriting.
It doesn't matter.
A terrible?
Handwriting.
Yes. Yeah, especially if he had to write in rocks. Yes. So this is a very important question. I think this is probably the most important question that divides the camps, the different movements. Because if you think that the Torah was written by God, or the second time were written by Moses, but with God's inspiration, and every single word of the Torah was it's God's word, it's God's will. So immediately you are included in this group that thinks that every law, every word, everything is from God, and we cannot change this. Even if we have chutzpah, we cannot do that. We cannot try to modify what is in sources from God, right? So, and if you think that this is only made by human beings, so what's the part of God here? Why for us is so holy? Why for us is so important and crucial? Why we read in the Torah these stories that some of these stories are not relevant at all to our days. So why are we doing that?
I think there's something related to our days in all the stories.
Mm-hmm. But for instance, so you need a process of reinterpretation of the text. So without this, what is called Torah shebe'al peh, oral law, without this oral law, we are stuck in a place that anything we can read from the Torah is like irrelevant. It's not talking to us. Yes, Randy.
I always thought the uniqueness of Judaism was it was the first group that said, well, maybe Babylon, there's a law that applies to everybody, kings to slaves.
Yes. Well, it was not the first time in Israel, but it follows, actually this parsha of this week, Mishpatim, it follows some Mesopotamian codes, for instance, Hammurabi code. But yes, you're right. It's supposed to be something that is equal for everyone. It's not just for me. Even if I am a king or I am, a simple worker, for everyone is the same. Yeah. Okay. So the question is how, when we say both, how is this? How is God participating and we participate in the process of revelation of the Torah, right? So, depending on these questions and the answer to these questions, you will be immediately in your mind. You will organize yourself, and you put, I'm reformed, but not so reformed. Or I am Orthodox, but not so Orthodox. I think human beings participate a little bit. So this is another way to make and to have clear the differences.
What
Yeah.
about the Hebrew language? So
Oh yeah, we're going to the Hebrew language. We're coming here.
The Torah is in Hebrew. That's the tradition. That's it. The stories in the language, and to carry that forward, those stories with the language, regardless of how you interpret them, it's that tradition that holds the
Yes.
Jewish people together.
Yeah, so there's excellent question. There's a tension between tradition and change. And for every movement, every religious movement, tradition is important. But for some movements, change is also very important. So what is the balance of this? The language is one example. There are synagogues that the whole service is in Hebrew. And if you ask me, I'm a Reformed rabbi nowadays. I'm a member of the CCAR, the Reformed Rabbinic Organization. But I love to have services in Hebrew. it's the way I like it, okay? So sometimes I introduce some English, or when I was there, some Spanish. But this is a good question. In some synagogues, very Reformed synagogues, or even probably beyond Reform, the Reform movement, many of the prayers are not in Hebrew, are in English, or in the vernacular language. Yeah. Okay. So let's continue. Who decides how the Jewish law should be interpreted? We have here Rashi, Saadia Gaon, and Maimonides. Okay? So, who decides? Because you said, and you are correct, that we need to reinterpret. In every generation, we need to reinterpret the text because this is the way to make this relevant to our lives. And this is the way, I mean, you know what is Torah, by the way? What means Torah? Torah. What's the meaning of the word Torah? It's not law. It's not, yes, teaching. Torah means teaching. So the importance of Torah is, more or mora, teacher, or so the importance of Torah is what we learn from the text. So it's so who is the authority here?
Yeah, that's always the question. That's of course the question. Because it changes.
Who?
Who's ever standing at the front?
Who is the person, the people, the what? Who is the authority to say, well, the Torah says this, and this is the correct thing?
There is no one.
I was always taught,
Well, you have the
you
Talmud.
interpret it.
Who is you?
Me, I interpret it myself, you interpret yourself.
Okay. If you think, let's do this with the melody of the Talmud. If you think that you are, the particular person is, the individual is the one who is interpreting, so you are, I will tell you, you are a Reformed Jew, even though your history is not. If you think that the rabbi is the one who needs to interpret, your rabbi, never mind, your rabbi. If you think that your rabbi is the authority, you are not Meshuggah. Maybe Meshuggah as well, but you are Orthodox.
Even if your rabbi isn't.
Sorry?
Even if your rabbi is not.
Yes, even if your rabbi is. By the way, we are. This is. I will say this, not so loudly because this is a secret. So, in Reformed congregations, in conservative congregations, in Reconstructionists, in Orthodox congregation, the denomination is fine. This is the title. Probably the rabbi belongs to this movement, but the people of the congregation,
Unaffiliated.
sometimes, yes, sometimes, most of the time, they do not follow the rules, the standards of the movements.
Well, it's because of Maimonides and all those rabbis, because they were contradicting each other or changing it, so that's where it comes from.
Yes,
So you have your own-
yeah. This is also because there is Arlene Monides, Vic Monides, and Maimonides. So there are different interpretations, probably, maybe thousands, without end into possibilities of interpretations of the text. Okay, it's
Interpretations change, and you wonder, right, there were some 11th century French rabbis, I don't know, who decided that certain grains you shouldn't eat at Pesach.
Right.
The Torah doesn't say that, but they decided that you shouldn't eat rice and beans.
Correct. And then the Ashkenazic tradition follows this rabbi. Yeah.
Well, but who can change that?
You.
Okay, so, important question. So, there are rabbinical organizations that one of the tasks of the organization is to try to make this more, flexible and more accurate to our times. So, for instance, not many years ago, maybe 6 years ago, the conservative movement said that since this is not based on halakha, it's just a tradition, so even Ashkenazic Jews can eat rice and kitniot in Pesach. For the Reform Jews, this is not a problem because, as I said to Randy, he's a Reform Jew. So, as I said to him, the individual is one who decides. I am the one who decides. I have free will. I am a free human being. I decide if do this or not. I decide to, obey is a very tricky word, but I decide if to obey this commandment or not. Yeah. Ira, and then you.
But in our 3,500 years, seeing as being freed from the narrow place, there have been some brilliant people in our history. And you can't totally turn your back on their thoughts and their
Absolutely.
their decisions.
Yes.
You gotta, without, right now, we're ignorant of a lot of it, but if you study enough, you'll learn an awful lot.
Sure, but at the end of the day, with all this knowledge, if you're a Reformed Jew, you will decide as a person. If you're a conservative Jew, there's the Rabbinical Assembly this is the name of the organization. They decide and they vote. They decide what are the changes allowed it and what are the changes that are not allowed it or are not still. So, for instance, I was part of the votation when I was a conservative rabbi. I was part of the votation in the acceptance of homosexuals and lesbians to the rabbinate. So, of course, I voted yes, but it took a long time for the conservative movement to realize that we should go forward with this law. And there are many examples that I can.
The Orthodox are now considering it as well.
Sorry?
The Orthodox are now considering
Of course, because this is a reality. This is part of our lives. And when this is not a question only for liberal movements. How we should deal with technology? For instance, in Shabbat, it's because fire is forbidden. It's one of the 40 laws that we cannot do on Shabbat.
But how did electricity become?
Yeah. So this is one of the differences. Excellent. So let's come from this. This is a casuistic way to approach to the issue, the matter of the substance of what our discussion. So, for instance, for the Orthodox Jews, they think, they studied this according to the ways of the halakha of the Jewish law, and they decided that electricity has something in common with fire. So the conclusion is you cannot light, turn on the light in your house, but you can have a timer, or you can have a Shabbos goy, a non-Jew who can do that, or you can work it out.
Doesn't it say, it says in the Torah that the people who live in your community are supposed to follow the same laws even if they're not Jewish?
Oh, the Shabbos Go is one of the most terrible things that they invented, you know, in order to make life more comfortable. Randy?
Just following Ars said, I learned, you interpret the Jewish law yourself, but it's contingent upon you learning all of the characteristics, all of the history of it. So you have to study Maimonides, all these other guys. What did they say? What is it based upon? What is this law based upon? What supports it? What
Mm-hmm.
negates it? So it's a continual study for you to really be able to say, this is correct, it's for me, but until I know everything, then I can't say it's correct for you.
Yes. And also, I would like to add the concept of time, evolution. Judaism is dynamic as everything in life. So if why, for instance, they almost don't study history in the rabbinical schools, in the Orthodox rabbinical school?
What history are you talking about?
Any history. They don't they study a little bit of Jewish history, but it's not the most important thing. I mean, the most important thing is, of course, Talmud, Halakha, you know, mitzvot, Shulchan Aruch, you know, what to do, what not to do. If we integrate the concept of evolution and things that are changing, the world is changing, so what we think about Judaism? Judaism is part of this. It's also evolving, or it's stuck in the 16th century with the Shulchan Aruch, for instance, right? So the rabbi interprets, and you know, there are also in the modern Orthodox there is a rabbinical organization. So it's not one rabbi. Sometimes they make decisions as a group, but there's in many synagogues and in many places there's a mix of things. For instance, the rabbinical organization has a norm, a rule, but also the rabbis, they have some. You know, they have some flexibility, so they can decide on some parts of things. So every rabbi is still what it's called in Aramaic Mara Deatra. It's like the person who decides about law. But at the end of the day, for instance, in a Reform synagogue, nobody is going to tell you what laws are you following in your house or what, no. So, but in some ways, especially if we are, you know, the only synagogue in an island or in a county. So, we need to be sensitive to some of the feelings, different feelings of people who come from different environments. So we're not eating pork in the synagogue. We're trying to, you know, to be. No, I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I think we are 100% Jewish in our way to be Jewish, but no, it's about to be open to people who are, they think differently, and their beliefs are different, and their customs are different. So I took this picture last week. This is the mezuzah in the entrance of my house. It's kosher. Yeah, it's kosher. Why? Why do you fix a mezuzah? What's the reason? Why do you fix a mezuzah in your house? What? Tradition. Okay. Tradition. Superstition. Yeah.
It's in the morning prayer. I mean, it's in the
most of my house. And I'm
Well, this is a morning prayer, of course. It's a mitzvah. You read the Shema. You should put these words in your arms and in your heart and in your mind and in the entrance of your houses and cities. And the rabbis interpreted this as tefillin and mezuzah. Great. So that's why you put the mezuzah? Maybe, why not? Yes?
It's also part of awareness, which is one of the main reasons.
Awareness. So when you enter to your house,
You touch the mezuzah, I'm here.
okay,
It's my house.
okay, yes. Oh, identification, right? Identity. I mean, you are not, people in Israel, not religious at all. First thing they do when they come to a new house is to fix a mezuzah. Why? We are Jews. We are part of a people. Yeah? So,
Maybe it also reminds you the notion of having shalom bayit, that when you're in your home, you behave in a Jewish way. That it reminds
absolutely. It's the awareness. You enter to your house. So let's have shalom bayit in my house. Let's have shalom. Let's try to find God's presence inside my house.
It's also very useful if you're looking for somebody's house, and not sure if it's this one or that.
Oh, this is a GPS for Jews. Oh, here, this mezuzah. So this would be here. Yeah.
But also, doesn't it allow your home to be a sanctuary as well?
Mm-hmm.
Place of prayer?
Good. So, you want to add
I was
something?
just gonna say, especially if you're delivering baskets for poor or something,
Yes.
and you're, as a volunteer in the congregation, you go up to the house, you're not sure it's the right house. It's very
Yes, exactly.
So there are different reasons why we fix a mezuzah in the entrance of our house. I follow them, it's my tradition, so I put mezuzah in every room, not in the bathroom, not in the kitchen, not in the deposit of things, but in every room we have a mezuzah. In every entrance, we have 3 entrances in the house, so many mezuzot. So I remember asking Jenny, can I fix, I think 7, 8, 9 mezuzot? Yeah, sure, of course. So, but yeah, go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say,
Yeah.
you never wanna put a screen door on your front door though, that opens this way, because we have a beautiful mezuzah from Israel, and they put the screen door on, and the face of the screen door is right over the mezuzah, and we can't take it
So we
off.
have to move it to the other
Oh
side.
no! Oh no! So the reason why we put the mezuzah also tells about what kind of Jew we are. Okay, because if we put the mezuzah and we think that this is like an amulet that protects me from being ill or having an accident or whatever, is one thing. So but if we think that about the awareness of entering my house and trying to find spirituality in what we are doing, in everything, so this is a completely different approach. Okay, so Jews and non-Jews. I studied Jewish philosophy at the Hebrew University. So one of the most important Jewish philosophers in the Middle Ages was Yehuda Halevi. Okay, Yehuda Halevi, the famous book, the Kuzari, I think it's. So Yehuda Halevi says in one part of the Kuzari that there are different species in this world. We have the mineral world, we have the vegetal world, we have the animal world, we have the human world, we have the Jews, and we have God. Oh my God, when I read this, I remember I was 20 years old, I don't know. I was shocked. What is he thinking about? So, are we essentially different from other peoples? Are we, is our history different? Maybe every people has a different mission in this world. But by the way, in the Bible, we read this in last week in the Torah study session on Saturday. It says Am Segula. Am Segula in Hebrew, it's like a violet people. It's very precious people. It's precious like diamonds, you know, like very important rocks, or something that is a treasure. It's not chosen. It's not written chosen in Hebrew. But why we develop this attitude of, there's a Jewish cup and this is a Goyish cup? It's that cultural. So different groups in Judaism have different ways to approach to this. So I know I won't mention. I'm not going to mention this because I don't want to make any lashon hara, chas v'chalila. It's not my intention. Sorry.
Just whisper.
No. Even whispering this is not good. But there are many groups that are worried about Jews, but nobody else. I will say this. I remember Judy was holding a soup kitchen project, not so far, about 400 kilometers from Buenos Aires, about 4 hours from Buenos Aires. This was a school with 70-something kids, and the congregation, Judy started this, but we wanted to do this in the framework of our congregation. The congregation was supporting this, not with money, but because Judy raised the money. But so we brought every month food, and we did a construction for a new dining room and an extension of the kitchen. So we gave to these children that were very poor, very, very poor. We gave them 3 meals a day. 6 days a week. Saturday as well. After a while, after let's say 2-3 years, that Judy collected raised the money. So the congregation said, we want to change this because we want to support a Jewish organization, and this is not Jewish. It was terrible. It was terrible for us because the mitzvah is to help. Tzedakah is not just for Jews. But there's, in many of us, still there's a concept of, we are a family. We are an extended family. So you first help your beloved ones, your krovim, all those who are close to you. So I understand that. I understand that this is something that it's part of our, being. But this also divides the camps. Okay, if we are you're looking just for Jews, so you probably will be in this side of the movement and not in that one, right? If Ukraine, it's important for you because every day there are people dying and the suffering is terrible, it's one thing. If your suffering is just because of there are Jews among them, it's a different story, has a different dimension. Okay. Oh, do I believe in Mashiach? What is Mashiach? First of all, what is Mashiach? Messiah, yeah, but the translation from Hebrew of Mashiach is, it's someone else put oil.
Oh, anointed ones.
No, exactly. How is the in English again?
Anointed.
Anointed. So, why? Because the vision of the prophets was that in the future we will have a king from the dynasty of David. There's another story. There is another Messiah from the dynasty of Joseph. But anyway, this is not the subject today. So, and this will be the Mashiach. This will be the king that the priest, the high priest, will put oil on his head, and he will be the savior in a very mundane way. And he will recover the sovereignty of the land of Israel and the independence of Israel. So there were many people that were thought to be Mashiach in our history, right? Shabtai Levi, Shabtai Tzvi, Shabtai Tzvi, Jacob Frank, Schneerson. I remember living in Jerusalem. Yeah. Well, it's still, yeah, but there's still a controversy. I don't want to come into this, but I want to tell you that. Well, I was in Brooklyn. I was there, and you enter to the synagogue, and there's a seat there. So this is the seat of the Rebbe. This is the chair of the Rebbe. He's coming every day and pray every day. And many people say he was and he still is the Mashiach. He is the savior of humanity, of the whole thing. But never mind. My question is, do you believe in a person who can be a savior or not?
It's a nice thought.
No, it's not a nice thought.
Yes, no? Who say yes?
No.
Well, the best expression was that the Messiah is going to come the day after we no longer need him.
Well, there are two options. There are two options. One option is the Messiah will come when we will not need him or her. Maybe a Meshicha, who knows? And the second option is when everything is so terrible that there's no other option that, Mashiach, please come. So anyway, in our prayers, for instance, in our Siddur, we don't have the word Mashiach, we don't have the word Goel, Redentor, so, and this is very important. The first Reformed Jews, they, bless you, they cut completely the whole thing of Mashiachut, of this eschatological thought. And instead, we say, instead of Goel, we say Geula, which means not Mashiach, but not Redemptor, but redemption. Redemption. It's different. So if we read a book, and for instance, our Siddur, and we say, Umevi Geula lifnei bneichem, so it's reform. Reconstruction is the same thing. Conservative, they have both things. Many times, I was about 2-3 weeks ago in Florida, and they had this Siddur, and there are two options. Umevi Geula or Umevi Goel. And you decide. Here, even in our Siddur, in our own Siddur Mishkan Tefillah, in the Amidah, we have two options when we say Mechayeh HaMetim or Mechayeh HaKol. Mechayeh HaMetim is, not reincarnation, but resurrection of the death, yeah. Some people say this, some people don't. So even within one movement there are differences. But when I open a Siddur, of course it's have English, it's not Orthodox, but some Siddurim, some Orthodox Siddurim, modern Orthodox have a translation. So immediately you can know, I can know, because immediately I know if this is Reform, Reconstructionist, Orthodox or Sephardic. It's so easy to know that because of this kind of things. But this is an ideological point. If you believe that one person can be the savior. By the way, Christianity is based on this idea, right? For them, Jesus was the savior. So, okay. How much do I care for climate change? Is the Satmar rabbi talking about climate change or not so much? I don't think so. So different themes that are not related just to the Jewish our limited Jewish being. Okay. Wow. Well, this is theology, pure theology. What is God or who is God? I like this picture because they're not touching, they're almost. So how can be the revelation? The revelation is something that we cannot understand. How the divine and transcendent come in contact with we that are so limited and so little and imperfect. Anyway, this is he was a genius, of course. But what do you think? This also divides the camps, this idea.
It would be nice to have a God that looked like Michelangelo's God.
Yeah, also we have a man that looks like this one, a lot of muscles.
In this room we have 10 different versions of God. I mean, each of us has his or her own interpretation of what God is.
Of course. Well, let me tell you, probably this is the less, among all the differences that I started like a joke, like playing, this is the less important. Why? Because there are not many dogmas in Judaism. So if you go to a Orthodox shul, right? You go to the shtibel, the little, let's say a little Bet Knesset, yeah? Yeah, we have this in Buenos Aires, in New York, or whatever. So you go and you ask all the Orthodox people there, what do you think? Who is God? Or how can you describe? So you will receive completely different interpretations, because this is not, we are not commanded to have an idea of what is God. All the philosophers in the Jewish thought talked about that, but the commandments are something that we need to do. So, okay, it's time to mincha. Okay, this is correct. We know what to do, but how we can be commanded to believe or to feel, it's not something that you can be commanded to. So as I said, even here in a Reformed congregation, we can come, ask people, what kind of God are do you believe? And people can say an energy. People can say, I really think there is a transcendent something. people can say, I can think that I can't imagine that the world is, the life is adrift without any master plan or whatever. Some people will say, well, God is love, or God, we have God inside us. Some people, as Spinoza, they can say, well, God is everywhere. Nature is God. By the way, Kabbalah and Hasidism are based on this idea of God everywhere, right? It's not, it's more sophisticated than we think. So these are terrible differences, but we cannot separate the movements because of these beliefs.
It's interesting, though, that in Christianity, starting in Catholicism, I guess, that is the absolute, most basic.
Oh, of course.
It defines.
Yeah,
that-
dogma.
And
Yeah.
and it's a human being.
Yeah.
That defines it. It's just so.
It's so different. And by the way, you remember, I think before the pandemic we had a class about what it means to be a Jew. And I talked about 6 pillars, and religion is just one of the pillars. It's not, it's not just religion. But for instance, Christianity is the first one. So let's go, because I'm a bit late. Pluralism in Judaism. So we have biblical Judaism and rabbinical Judaism. What kind of Judaism do you think we follow nowadays? Rabbinical Judaism. Of course. We are not, killing a kid who is protesting or not behaving. Yes.
I have a question. Is it true that rabbinic Judaism says you can eat meat with milk, but not the...
Well, there's a discussion. There's a discussion in the Talmud. There's a discussion in the Talmud, and there's a discussion about mixing milk with chicken, for instance, because chickens don't have milk. But they, the rabbis discuss and came to the conclusion that, in order not to make any confusion, you should put all the meats, including chicken or the Thanksgiving thing, turkey. This is meat, fleishes. Okay. What? Yes, hodu.
Because there was no.
A lot hodu. In Israel, it's very common to eat hodu. Yeah. Okay. So, in the Mishnah, before the biblical period, we had the zugot, the couples of rabbis. One was the Rosh Yeshiva, the head of the yeshiva, and the other one was the Avbedin, the head of the tribunal. So always there were at least 2 rabbis, 2 opinions, different opinions. Hillel and Shammai, Shammai and Avtalion, Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva, and always 2. This came into when the Amoraim, after the Mishnah, in the times of the Talmud, the entity of plukta, it's a word in Aramaic that means being disagreeing, not agreeing. It's not just legitimate. They promote the different opinions. So in Judaism, you can say one thing, you can say another thing about, especially about beliefs, but also about halakha, and it's okay. You are allowed to do so. And the good student, is not that one who says yes to everything the rabbi teaches, but who asks questions, and it's it has the chutzpah to say, oh, but listen, you are saying, yeah. Okay, so traditional Jewish commentators in the Middle Ages, Ibn Ezra, Ramban, Rashbam, Rashi, of course, Rashi, the first, most important, and the philosophers, Saadia Gaon, Yehuda Levi, Yosef Albo, Maimonides, Moshe ben Maimon, the lawmakers, and all of them were part of a diverse world, completely diverse, and we have so many. It's so rich and so colorful. It's so pluralistic, and it started in the Bible, but of course in the rabbinical thought, because the rabbinical thought was the way of trying to interpret and explain what the Bible is trying to teach us. Okay, in the 18th century, there was, you probably heard about that, a movement called Enlightenment. Moses Mendelssohn was one of the most important reference of this movement. What happened? First of all, the different societies opened welcomed the Jews. So the Jews were allowed to go out of the ghetto. They were living in ghettos, in a very concentrated and homogenic groups, and they could leave these ghettos, and for the first time were welcome to be part of the entire society. The second thing, there was a need from the Jews to be part. I want to be part of the society. Not just they allow me to go, but I want to go. This is my desire. This was my desire during centuries and centuries, and this is also an opportunity for me, as a Jew, to be there, not being discriminated. So one of the things that Mendelssohn and these people decided to do is this is very interesting and very known phrase. I want to be a Jew in my house, inside my home, and a human being outside. So I will fulfill the mitzvot, the commandments. I will do, Shabbat, Passover, Chanukah, and all the festivals, everything in my house. But when I will speak with my kids and my wife in Yiddish or Hebrew or whatever. It depends, in what diaspora you are. But when I go outside, I will speak, in the case of Mendelssohn, I will speak German, because everyone speaks German. So this was a revolution. This was really a revolution, and this opened the whole the possibility of trying to become closer to the other. Yes, and yes, yeah.
Well, but it had two sides to it. I mean, if you look at Moses Mendelssohn, his children and grandchildren, most of them converted to Christianity.
I know. Yes, yeah. Well, of course, always you have two sides or more than two sides, and there's always a risk, but nothing is guaranteed. Of course, if you, instead of teaching your children and educating based on free will and freedom, you indoctrinate your children, so they're not allowed to think by themselves. So you can have more chances to have they continuing your tradition. But the other risk is that, they are not thinking by themselves. They were indoctrinated. They were brain, you know how to say this, brainwashed. Yes, Arlene, sorry.
No, I just think in terms of culture as it is, if you live in a small community, this is what you do, and this is how you eat it, and this is the time you do it, and there is that kind of culture regularity. That's what you know. Your children know that,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the way it goes. That's universal, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So, well, I took the other risk. I took the risk to, not I, we, Judy and I took the risk of trying to teach our children to be free and to make their own decisions. And, it wasn't so terrible. You know, the apple doesn't fall so away from the tree. But this is another story. What is this? This is also makes a division between. Listen to me. I didn't want to tell you, well, this is reform, this is conservative. I will do this in a while, very shortly, but you can find this everywhere. What I wanted to do is to make you think a little bit about different aspects of all these divisions. So one of them is Wissenschaft des Judentums. I don't speak German. I just learned some German in the university because my major is in modern Jewish philosophy. So just a little bit, and I spoke some German with Judy's Oma, grandma. So yes, guten Abend, this kind of thing. So Wissenschaft, ja, sprechen Sie Deutsch. Science of Judaism, in Hebrew, Chochmat Yisrael. What does it mean, Chochmat Israel? This was a movement in the 19th century that also, like the Enlightenment, transformed the way of approaching to the Jewish texts. It started in Berlin around 1819 with scholars like Leopold Zunz, Edward Ganz, and Heinrich Heine. By the way, Leopold Zunz was a Reform rabbi. And then Abraham Geiger, another important Reform rabbi that I didn't write here. So what was the point? What was the point here? This movement consisted of the application of new methods of textual study, especially philology and history, to the study of Jewish texts. So when I read the text, I took away all my beliefs, and I think that this is a text made by human beings. And I will try to use all the tools I have as a historian or archaeologist or whatever in order to understand this thing. So this was followed by Christian scholars who applied these methods to the study of Greek and Latin in their sacred text. And also it was, for instance, in Bible, I took some classes at Hebrew University on Bible. So, for instance, we studied the book of Job, and the book of Job there are lots of words that you don't understand in Hebrew. What's the meaning? So it's important to make comparisons with Arabic, with different languages of the region of that times. This is not studied in the yeshivot. This way of learning, right? This was revolutionary, as I said, because they treat sacred texts historically as human creations, and this movement opened the path to different and new religious movements, such as the Reformed, conservative ones, and was very criticized by the Orthodox establishment. So this is a very important difference. We won't have Chochmat Israel, the science of Judaism. We won't have this in the Haredi world, in the ultra-Orthodox world. We will have this in the modern Orthodox, though. I had lots of friends that we studied together. They used to have not this kind, but another kind of kippah. By the way, by looking at the kippah, you can know if they belong to this movement or the other, right? If it's a black kippah or it's a small kippah. Well, I won't tell you anything. But now nowadays there's the how you call this well, I will explain this later, but this is an example of one of the kippot that you can use. But anyway, never mind. It's not important. Okay, Reform Judaism. We are a Reform congregation. The Reform is the largest affiliation of American Jews. Some 35% of Jews identify as Reform. The movement emphasized the primacy of the Jewish ethical tradition over the obligations of Jewish law. The movement has traditionally sought to adapt Jewish tradition to modern sensibilities and sees itself as political progressive and social justice oriented, while emphasizing personal choice. Personal choice, not the rabbi, not the whole establishment, but you, the individual, in matters of ritual observance. The major institutions are the Union for Reform Judaism, that congregates the congregations and unites the congregation. Rabbi Rick Jacobs, my very, very good friend, is the president of this institution. The Hebrew Union College, a Jewish institution of religion, is the alma mater, the place where the rabbis are trained. I was trained in a conservative movement, not here, but this is how Reform rabbis are trained here in the U.S. There's the Religious Action Center and the Central Conference of American Rabbis, the syndicate. How do you say syndicate? Yeah, the group of rabbis that come together, and there are many work doing by the CCAR, publications, and also ways to help rabbis to do their jobs. Conservative Judaism, known as Masorti, traditional, outside North America, conservative Judaism sees Jewish law as obligatory, even though in practice there is an enormous range of observance among conservative Jews. Halakha is important. You need to follow the law. Interpretation is crucial because there are many ways, as we saw, many ways of interpreting the law, but you cannot be a conservative Jew and say, I don't care what the law says. The movement has historically represented a midpoint of the spectrum of observance between Orthodox and Reform, adopting certain innovations like driving to synagogue, but nowhere else. This was a discussion many years ago. It was before I was ordained. So can we go to the synagogue if we live, in Winslow? Can we come to the synagogue on Shabbat? Of course you can, if you are conservative. If you are Orthodox, no. Okay, on Shabbat, also gender egalitarian prayer in most conservative synagogues. Men and women sit together, there's no mechitza, there's no ezrat nashim, but maintaining the traditional line in other matters, for instance, keeping kosher and intermarriage. They don't do intermarriage yet. I know many rabbis, many conservative rabbis do, but this is a secret.
The first questions we asked you during your interview.
Of course. Yeah, and I remember I was thinking, and I asked you, I need to think about this because I've never done this before. I did this last year, but it was the first one. So far, the only one. But it was enough to be out of the conservative movement. I mean, this is the border, okay? The movement has liberalized its approach to intermarriage somewhat in recent years, but I said not completely. About 80% of American Jews identify as conservative. Major institutions. The alma mater is the Jewish Theological Seminary in New York, and there are another seminaries, one in LA, one in Boston, one in Buenos Aires, one in Europe, and in Israel, in Jerusalem there is also. The United Synagogue of Conservative Judaism is like the URJ in the Reform movement. The Rabbinical Assembly, I used to be part of the Executive Council of the Rabbinical Assembly for many years. I used to come to the annual gatherings. And the Ziegler School of Rabbinical Studies is in LA. Okay. Orthodox Judaism. Orthodox Jews are defined by their adherence to a traditional understanding of Jewish law as interpreted by rabbinical authorities over the centuries. Not you and you and you and me, just the rabbinical authorities. Hallmarks of Orthodox religious life include strict observance of Shabbat, no driving, no working, turning electricity on or off, or handling money. Nowadays, I was a conservative rabbi, but I didn't use money. I didn't write. I didn't drive to the synagogue because I was living 3 blocks from the synagogue. So it's when you are accustomed to this, you know, you also, I need to tell you this. It's nice. It's not a burden. It's not terrible. We have all the forks and knives or spoons for milk, and here we have in another color, and we still have the same the 5 different stuff for Shabbat, for weekdays, even for Passover, one especially for Pesach, and it's nice. And we lived many years like this, and we enjoyed this. It wasn't a burden for us, but I talked about time and evolution and transformation, and I did my own path. So Orthodox, though numerically the smallest of the big 3, some 10% of American Jews identify as Orthodox. Orthodox Jews.
So you have 35 and 18 and 10 adds up to 63, so that means...
Yeah, well, shvoy, rega. Yeah. We have a mathematician here. It's wonderful. Orthodox Jews have larger than average families, and their offspring are statistically more likely to remain observant Jews. Unlike the Reform and Conservative movement, which have recognized leadership that sets policy for movement-affiliated institutions, Orthodox Judaism is a looser category that can be further subdivided. I can tell you all can be subdivided, all of the movement. Modern Orthodox, we learned about the 3 big. Now I'm coming very quickly to the smallest groups. We have modern Orthodox, known as centrist Orthodoxy. This movement was an effort to harmonize traditional observance of Jewish law with secular modernity. For instance, the study of science and the study of Torah with the Wissenschaft, the Judentum's approach, they do that. They go to universities. Men and women, they go to the university, and they study different things. They can become doctors and scientists and artists, you know. Soccer. Well, artists, you know, Shtisel, it was not modern Orthodox, but even a Hasidic Orthodox was an artist. He wanted to become an artist. I think it's not so easy. But anyway, so the ideal is summed up in the motto of its flagship institution, New York's Yeshiva University, Torah Umada, literally Torah and secular knowledge. So it's they can go to the opera. They can, they want to go to a museum, so they would do that. Major institutions: Yeshiva University, Rabbinical Council of America, Orthodox Union. And there are Haredim, ultra-Orthodox. I divided this in two groups. The Hasidic, they're not just the Chabad, there are many Hasidic groups. Hasidic Jews are heirs of the spiritual revivalist movement that began in Eastern Europe in the 18th century, and drawing on the Jewish mystical tradition based on the Kabbalah, emphasized direct communion with the divine through ecstatic prayer and joy in worship. Let me add something. Unfortunately, this was in the 18th century. Nowadays, many of this passion it's not like the same. I mean, when I think of the Hasidim of the 18th century, I think of a different kind of Jew, more closer to, the fiddler on the roof and stuff, and not so focused in the halakha and every particular law. But there are a number of distinct sets, more headed by a charismatic rabbi or rebbe, including Chabad, Satmar, Ger, Skver, whatever. And there are the Mitnagdim, the Yeshivish, sometimes also known as Litvish. These Haredi Jews are heirs of the Mitnagdim, literally opponents, who rejected the rise of Hasidic Judaism in Europe. These Jews traditionally emphasized the intellectual aspects of Jewish life, particularly rigorous Talmud study for men. Yeshivish derives from the word yeshiva, or religious seminary.
Do they dress a certain way, the Yeshivish? Do the Yeshivish dress a certain way?
Yes, they are. They are different in the way in the dress. They are different in the way they use the peot, and it also depends if they are Ashkenazic or Sephardic or Mizrahi. So there are many differences, and you can see them and you can distinguish. I'm not an expert, but you can do that. Reconstructionist Judaism. This is very important because in recent years the movement grew, following the thinking of its founder Mordechai Kaplan. I talked about Mordechai Kaplan 2 weeks ago, I think. Reconstructionism holds that Judaism is the evolving civilization of the Jewish people. It's not just the believing in a transcendental God. Its adherents hold varying opinions about the extent to which Jewish law, particularly the mitzvot, are obligatory. The movement is quite religiously progressive. Kaplan was the first American rabbi to preside over a public bat mitzvah celebration for his daughter Judith in 1922. And the movement's rabbinical seminary was the first to accept openly gay students. By the way, Mordechai Kaplan was a conservative rabbi, and this was a division among the conservative movement when he decided to create a different movement. He lived more than 100 years. He lived in the last years in Jerusalem. Very charismatic. You need to read, if you haven't read Judaism as a Civilization. It's an amazing book. It has something, because it was written before the Shoah, so some theological aspects are not so easy for us after the Shoah, but this idea of Judaism as a whole civilization it's really, to me, it's very powerful. Sorry?
It's written by Kaplan?
Yes, written by Kaplan, and it's in English, in Spanish, in many languages. Judaism as a Civilization.
So you talked about this 2 weeks ago?
I think so, Shabbat morning. I talk about Mordechai Kaplan when...
Oh, was it a Torah study group?
No, in the service. When he said to my Rabbi Marshall, yeah...
With the symphony.
Was last week. Okay, so, well, you missed that. But anyway...
Shabbat, we were at the
I told you, Randy, Okay, the movement's major institution is the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College, based outside Philadelphia. Sorry that Philadelphia didn't win the Super Bowl.
We belonged to a synagogue that the rabbi was gay, and we were just at a wedding where a gay rabbi performed the service.
Yeah. I know that I came to the edge of my time, so can you have 5 more minutes?
Yes.
Okay, 5 more minutes. Well, we have the Jewish Renewal that was founded by Rabbi Zalman Schachter Shalomi, who was a Hasidic rabbi from Chabad, but he, instead of coming with the answer, he came with a question. And we have a humanistic Judaism. It's not based on the idea of God and anything about revelation or this kind of stuff. So, I want to come to this. I had a bonus track, but I will leave this for another class. So, movement, science, Torah, law, authority, God. If you are Orthodox, science, no. God, the Torah was written by God. The law is mandatory. The authority is the rabbi. God, whatever you can think about God is okay. Okay. Modern Orthodox, science, yes. Wissenschaft, yes. The Torah was written by God. Law is mandatory. Not the rabbi, but the Rabbinical Council of America. Mm-hmm. Conservative, science, yes. The Torah, God and human beings, as you said, Steph. Okay? The law is mandatory, but there's an important evolution of the law. The authority is the Rabbinical Assembly. Reconstructionist, science, yes. Torah, God, people. Law, not mandatory, but essential. Well, this is very, very interesting. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not mandatory, but if we are not doing, this is what they say. Sorry. For instance, it's not mandatory. I'm not going to look at your refrigerator or kitchen in Pesach if you have rice, kitniot, or even bread. But it's Pesach, it's Passover, so, well, something we need to do in order to know that this is Pesach, right? Okay, never mind. The authority is the Reconstructionist Rabbinic Association, and here is something that belongs to the theological category. It's about the immanence of God. They're not talking about transcendental God. They're not talking about Mashiach at all. They're not talking about chosen people. They don't say, Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim. They don't say that God chose us. They say a different blessing when they are called to the Torah. Well, this is a kind of introduction. We are not studying the Reconstruction movement, but it's very interesting. The Reform, you know the Reform because you belong to the Reform synagogue. So science, of course. Torah, God, people. In what way God, in what way people. Law is not mandatory, but I think it's important. I won't say essential, important to some people. For instance, for the rabbi, it's important. Central Conference of American Rabbis. This is the authority, but I would say that at the end of the day, the authority is the individual. It's not the rabbinical association. I need to change this. I need to put the individual. Each one of us is the person who decides. Humanistic, science, yes. Torah, no, not God, people. Law, not mandatory. Authority, not. God, not, because it's an atheistic approach. And another, I did another. It was interesting for me to try to put this together. Orthodox, egalitarian, no. Inclusive, no. Hebrew, only Hebrew. University, no. Music, when I say music, I don't say singing. I say musical instruments, forbidden in Shabbat, yeah, or Hagim. Modern Orthodox, almost the same, but the difference is the university. They do go to universities, and they are open to the the world, yeah, the whole world.
Science, right?
Yes.
You say they work with the science that relates to that.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Conservative, egalitarian, mostly, most of the, not 100%, but let's say 90% are egalitarian. So in some places, women don't come to the Torah, or I saw in some places women are not part of the tribunal, because according to the Orthodox halakha, only men can be part of the tribunal. But let's say that 90% of the conservative are completely egalitarian. Hebrew, mostly in Hebrew. The service is mostly in Hebrew. University, yes. Music, yes. Well, music also depends. I know some conservative synagogues that they have, for instance, music in part of the Kabbalat Shabbat, not in the Shabbat morning service. But many synagogues, I grew up in a conservative synagogue that we had music always, you know. Reform, yes. Hebrew depends. Kol Shalom has a lot of Hebrew because of his Argentinian rabbi. University, yes. Music, yes. Humanistic, egalitarian, yes. Inclusive, yes. Hebrew, no. Maybe sometime we'll say some word in Hebrew. University, yes. Music, yes. Okay. So, and now, as I put in the title, we are living, this is my opinion, and I want you to think about this. We are living in I would say, non-denominational or trans-denominational times. For instance, what kind of Jew is one who comes to the synagogue with his her car, doesn't eat kosher, but like a service only in Hebrew? Where can you put him? If we are going to classify him or her, where are you putting him or her?
Northwestern Reform.
What?
Northwestern Reform.
Northwestern Reform. Oh, yes. What kind of Jew is one who walks to the synagogue, eats kosher, but likes to pray in English and have music in services? Who knows? But there are people like this. I know that. Believe me, I have complaints all the times. about why you don't do that, why you do this. So, okay, so what kind of Jew is one who doesn't come to the synagogue, but when he sees a Hasidic Jew, for instance, in the in the sukkah mobile or in the airport, something happens in his soul, and even accepts to put tefillin? What's going on there? Yeah, but it happens a lot. How can we typecast in few streams the diversity of Jewish life nowadays? And of course, we need to ask ourselves, what kind of Jew is every one of us? I mean, can we be classified in one of these categories? It's not so easy nowadays. We can say we are Reform, and this is okay, but this is not classifying anything. It's just saying that we belong to a framework, right? But there are many different ways to practice Reform Judaism, or to practice conservative Judaism, or to practice Orthodox Judaism. Okay. No, bonus track, it's for next time. Questions if you have, and I'm so sorry that it took so long time. Yeah, you have any question or
So
you
there's
want?
a follow-up class to this?
Well, probably next month we will have a class about klezmer online. It's going to be done by a very close friend of our daughter Lila. She played. Hey, no battery.
We can hear you.
No battery. So yes. So you know what is no battery? That I need to shut up my mouth. B'tzayin mina shamayim. So next month, klezmer online with Paloma Schachman from maybe Berlin or Buenos Aires, because she is preparing a film about klezmer, doing this in both cities, but she lives in Buenos Aires.
I'm sorry, we need the name
The
of the
name
book.
of the book by Kaplan.
Judaism as a
Civilization.
civilization.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And
Very
happy
good.